All right, so yesterday I had brought, okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to my channel, Omni Gyan. Yesterday I did start explaining you the yarn of the Nancy Bell, but I suddenly realized that one part of the explanation there was a typing mistake. So I deleted the entire video instantly so that I don't provide you any incorrect information. All right. So that I don't provide you any incorrect information, and that is why I am bringing this video once again for all of you, the yarn of the Nancy Bell, and that too live once again. Okay, so I'm going to explain you the yarn of the Nancy Bell today, and without any mistake this time. Okay, yesterday I had made a mistake actually, that is why I thought of deleting the entire video. So I instantly deleted the video. Anyways, I welcome all of you once again to my channel Omni Gyan. Let us start the explanation without much delay, okay? And as I go on explaining, you can keep joining me live, right? Okay. So the yarn of the Nancy Bell, full explanation for class 9 emboss. All right. Okay. Let us start the explanation then without delay. So the yarn of the Nancy Bell, full explanation, and this is, as you know, this is in the syllabus of class 9 emboss. Okay, and this is your Sir Kalparaj, presenting you the explanation of the poem The Yarn of the Nancy Bell. Okay, now let us have a very short introduction about the poem. It is there in your book also. Now one more thing, students, this poem is actually a very long poem, but when this poem was included in your syllabus, some of the stanzas were deleted. Okay, some of the stanzas have not been included in this poem. So the poem that you'll find in your book is actually only few stanzas of the main poem of that longer poem. ठीक है, ये जो poem है ये बहुत लंबा poem है actually, लेकिन कुछ stanzas को delete किया गया है to include in your syllabus. All right. Now let us have the introduction very quickly. This poem is about the meeting between an elderly naval man and a poet. Naval man, as you know, naval man, navy. Okay, naval comes from navy, and somebody, we can say in short that somebody who works in a ship. Okay, एक officer जो ship का in charge होता है, somebody who is the in charge of a ship is a naval man. Okay, or one who works in a ship is a naval man. Okay, कोई बड़ा ऑफिसर. तो ये एक मीटिंग है. दिस इज अ मीटिंग बिटवीन द नेवल मैन एंड द पोएट. दे आर ट्रैवलिंग. दिस नेवल मैन mentions about a ship called Nancy, and that is why it is called the yarn of the Nancy Bell. Okay, the name of the ship is Nancy. So this naval man, one day he meets the poet. एक दिन उसका मुलाकात होता है पोएट के साथ. One day he meets the poet and then they have a meeting. Now look at the description of this naval man. This naval man's hair was weedy and he had long beard. Okay, just one second, let me just decrease the fan speed. Okay, so the naval man's hair was weedy and he had long beard. Okay, तो उसका जो hair था, the naval man's hair, it was little weedy. So this is his head and his hair is like that. Okay, weedy, and he had long beard. उसके बड़े बड़े दाढ़ी थे. Okay, he had very long beard. Okay, he had very long beard. Now this naval man starts telling his story. वो naval man जो है वो अपना कहानी सुना रहा है. He starts telling his story. Okay, so introduction part you understood. Let me just summarize. This poem starts with the meeting between the this naval man and the poet. The naval man's description is given here. His hair is weedy and he had very long beard, and then he starts telling his story to the poet. Okay, वो अपना कहानी बता रहा है poet को. अब हम लोग आगे देखते हैं. Look at stanza 1. Oh, I am a cook and a captain bold, and the mate of the Nancy brig, and a boatswain tight, and a midshipmate, and the crew of the captain's gig. Explanation. Look at the explanation. The naval man claims that he holds many positions, or he holds many posts. Okay, he holds many posts. This man this naval officer says that I am the cook, I am the captain also, I am the deck officer also, I am a petty small officer also, a small kind of officer also, I am also the midshipman. So I have so many positions. Say for example, your principal of the school. Okay. Say for example, if he goes on telling that I am the principal of the school also, I am the teacher of the school, I am the peon of the school, I am the clerk of the school, I am the students of the school, I am also the parents. Okay, so it is something like this. Okay, he goes on telling in this way. Okay, so he says that I am also the crew in the ship Nancy. So this naval man is holding so many positions in the ship. Please remember this thing. Okay, it's going to be very interesting. I'm telling you why. One person is holding so many posts. Just remember this thing inside your mind. This poem is really a fantastic poem. Let me tell you, one of the most humorous poems that I have ever found actually. Okay, so you remember that this naval man, he is the cook also, the captain also, the deck officer also, he is a petty small officer also, he is a midshipmate also, he is also the crew. Crew means group of people working in the ship. Okay, a large number of people, group of people working in the ship. Okay, so he is also the crew in the ship Nancy. So many positions he is holding, right? One person, but so many positions. Stanza 2. It was in the good ship Nancy Bell that we sailed to the Indian Sea, and there on a reef we come to grief, which has often occurred to me. So only four lines. Okay, one more thing, let me tell you. This is an additional information. It is not important for your exam, but still then, let me just tell you this thing. Look at line number 2. In every stanza, you will find line number 2 and line number 4 rhyming. Okay, say brig with gig. But line number 1 does not rhyme with line number 3. So if you say 1, 2, 3, 4. So line number 2 you will find and line number 4 you will find, which are rhyming. Brig, gig. Okay, but 1 and 3 does not rhyme. In the similar manner, you will find in stanza 2 also, line number 2 and line number 4. It's rhyming. C rhymes with me, but bell does not rhyme with grief. Okay, let us now look at the explanation. Very small explanation. You see only four lines. Okay, only four lines explanation. And while watching the video, if you have any doubt or something like that, you can comment me also. So in that ship called Nancy, they sailed to the Indian Sea. So this naval man is telling that in that ship Nancy, we sailed to the Indian Sea. Okay? But what happened one day is that their ship crashed against a rock. Rock means reef here. Okay, rock means reef. You can see here also reef. Okay, and there on a reef we come to grief. That means they became very sad when their ship crashed against a rock. Okay, which means reef, and they all became very sad. Okay, this thing you understood. All of them were traveling in that ship Nancy, and they traveled where? To the Indian Sea. Okay, and one day what happened? Their ship crashed against a rock, and they all became very sad. Now, why they became very sad? Look at stanza number 3. And pretty nigh all the crew was drowned. There were 77 O soul, and only 10 of the Nancy's men stayed here to the muster roll. Okay, let's go to the explanation. Now, the result of the crash was that almost all were drowned in the sea. Okay, so how many total people were there working in the ship or in the ship? There were total 70 men in the ship. So total 70 men were there in the ship. Okay, and most of them actually drowned. See, there were 77 O soul. That means 70 people were there total in the ship. Okay, and out of those 70 people, maximum when the ship crashed on the rock, against the rock, maximum most of them fell into the water and drowned actually. But out of the 70, how many survived? Out of those 70 people, total people, only 10 men were alive. Sirf 10 log zinda bache. Only 10 men survived. Okay, and these 10 men now gathered at one place in the ship. So ship mein these 10 men actually gathered at one place in the ship, and they all gathered to count themselves. Matlab, they started taking their attendance. Okay, that how many of us we are alive. Let us count one another. Let us take a kind of an attendance. So they all gathered to count themselves and inspect how many final crew was left. So how many final people were alive in the ship? Let us gather all together and let us टेक अ काइंड ऑफ एन अटेंडेंस, ठीक है, एक छोटा सा काइंड ऑफ एन अटेंडेंस लेते हैं हम लोग, ठीक है. Okay, I hope you understood. Stanza 3, this is stanza 4 now. So now now this naval man is giving a list of all those people who survived, who were alive, okay, list of all who survived. ये कितने लोग बचे उसका वो लिस्ट दे रहा है. How many people were alive? This naval man is now giving the list. Remember, the naval man is telling this story, है ना? Because in the introduction part itself, we have seen that the naval man and the poet, they have a meeting, and this naval man is telling his story of adventure. What happened? So how many people were alive and who were they? So the naval man is telling that there was me and the cook and the captain bold and the mate of the Nancy brig and the boatswain tight and the midshipmate and the crew of the captain's gig. तो वो कहता है कि these are the people who survived. Let us look at the explanation, though the explanation is very easy. So in this stanza, the naval man counts or he lists how many of them were alive, and they started taking their attendance. They have already taken their attendance, right? So he now counts or lists that how many of them were alive or how many of them survived. Now all who were alive were the naval man, the cook, the captain, the deck officer, the petty small officer, the midshipmate, and the crew. So these are the 10 people. These are the 10 people who were alive. Okay, so look at the list. 1 second, let me just go through this explanation once again. कितने लोग बचे? 10 लोग बचे. 10 people survived. कौन कौन? Who are these 10 people? Okay, the naval man, the cook, the captain, the deck officer, mate, M-A-T-E, mate, okay, the petty small officer, the midshipmate, and the crew. So all these people were finally, these were the 10 people who remained alive, and the rest 60 people, total 70 people were there. Out of those, 60 people drowned, right? And how many remained alive? So 10 people. So stanza 4 is a list of the people who remained alive. Now they are now telling, this naval man is now telling that for a month with neither victuals, victuals means food. Victuals means food. Okay. So for a month with neither victuals nor drink, till hungry we did feel. So we drawed a lot and according shot the captain for our meal. So you see here line number 2 and line number 4, the rhyming. Okay. But first line and third line does not rhyme. Okay, so now stanza 5 explanation you see. So for a whole month they did not eat anything. They neither ate anything nor they drank anything. Now drinking water was not possible because the sea water was salty. Okay, the sea water was salty. That is why they did not drink anything for one full month, for one whole month. They even did not eat anything because they did not have any food with them. Alright, so they could not eat anything. So as a result, they started feeling extremely hungry now. Okay, उन लोगों को बहुत भूख लगने लगा. They started feeling extremely hungry. So now they decided, they got one idea. They decided that let's do one thing. Let us do a lottery. So through a lottery, let us decide that out of the 10 members remaining alive, on whoever, okay, the lot would fall, he would be killed and eaten. So they did a lottery system, and in that lottery system they decided that on whoever that lottery thing would fall, he would be killed and would be eaten alive. Let me just give you one example. How do we do lottery? There may be hundreds of ways to do a lottery. Say for example, you take chits of paper. Okay, you take chits of paper like that, and on any one chit of paper, any one of the chit of paper, you just put a mark. Alright, and you fold that chit of paper so that no one can see, and then you throw it. Okay, and then all of these 10 people will pick one chit, and whoever would get this particular chit, the marked one, okay, that person will be killed and eaten. उस इंसान को मारा जाएगा और उसको खा लिया जाएगा, because they were very hungry, they needed food immediately, so they thought that we must sacrifice our lives so that the others might remain alive. Okay, I hope you understood this thing. So now this captain was very unlucky. There was the captain of the ship. He was very unlucky, and the first lot fell on the captain. So पहला chit, जैसे for example, if I take the example of chit, though let me tell you that in the book this lottery system has not been mentioned. Lottery system had not been mentioned. So there may be hundreds of ways to do a lottery. Okay, so I'm just giving an example just to make you understand. Okay, so anyways, the first lot fell on the captain. This captain was very unlucky. The first lot fell on the captain. Okay, the captain was unlucky. So ultimately they shot him, they shot the captain and ate him. तो उन्होंने captain को shoot किया, they shot the captain and they ate the captain. Captain को वो खा गए. So in this way they satisfied their hunger. तो इस तरीके से उन्होंने अपना भूख मिटाया. They satisfied their hunger. So the first person out of 10 people, the first person to die was who? The first person to die was the captain. Remember this, okay? It might be asked in the exam also. Alright, that who was the first person to die? The first person to die out of the 10 people was the captain. Okay? Remember this thing. Next, stanza 6. Now, the second lot, the next lot, so this lottery system continued. Okay, this lottery system continued. So the next lot fell to the Nancy's mate, and a delicate dish he made. Then our appetite with the midshipmate, we 7 survivors stayed. Okay, let us look at the explanation. Lines are very simple and easy. It's very easy to understand. It's a very simple poem. There's no complications in the poem, and that is why I would suggest you that if you prepare this poem very nicely, you prepare this poem very nicely for exam. Why? Because this poem is very easy also. Plus, if you are given choose the correct answer or fill in the blanks from this poem, okay, you may very easily study also. ठीक है? अब देखते क्या होता है. देखिए, the next lot fell on the, so the second lot, next means this is the second lot. The second lot, the next lot fell on the deck's officer, the mate, whom the others killed and ate him. So this process of lottery continued, and the second person to die on the ship was the deck officer. So the others killed the deck officer and they ate him. Again, now they satisfied their hunger. Now the third person to die was the midshipmate. So this lottery system again continued, and the third person who was killed and eaten was the midshipmate. So पहला कौन मरा? Who was the first person to die? The first person to die was the captain. The second person to die was the mate. Mate means the deck's officer, and the third person to die was the midshipmate. Okay, you remember these three: first, second, third. Now, how many people were remaining alive? Okay, the number of persons remaining alive was now only 7. Obviously, 3 died out of 10. So 10 minus 7, 10 minus 3 is 7, right? So 7 people are now remaining alive. Okay, now you see that in your book you'll find that it is given in brackets. Okay, that the bosun and the others are all killed one by drawing lots. So I have explained it in my own language, but then you'll find in bracket it is given. Actually, in the original poem, there are more stanzas there that explain that how the bosun was killed, how the others were killed. Okay, it is one by one given there in each stanza. But in order to shorten the poem, in your book, the the department, education department, they have deleted those portions, and it is not required also. Okay, it's very easy to understand. So the bosun got killed, the others also got killed one by one. How? Again, through that lottery process only. Okay, by drawing lots. Okay. Now, so now you see that one by one, when all were killed, now only the cook and me was left. So only 2 people were left. So out of 10, 8 people were killed. Out of 10, 8 people were killed. Now only 2 left. Okay, and who are the 2? ये दोनों कौन है? The naval officer. Me here is the naval officer, because the naval officer is telling the story, right? Because the naval officer is telling the story, the naval man is telling the story, officer or man. The naval man is telling the story. So me in the first person, me means here the naval officer or the naval man. So then only the cook and me was left, and the delicate question, which of us 2 goes to the kettle, arose, and we argued it out as Sitch. So sitch here means such actually, and it rhymes with which. So again, second and fourth stanza, second and fourth line rhyming. Okay, so which, sitch. Sitch is a very old English actually. Sitch is old English. And let me tell you one more thing. Please keep this habit of even memorizing the word meanings also, because in class 10, when you go to class 10, word meanings are very important and word meanings are often asked in the exams. ठीक है, वर्ड मीनिंग्स एग्जाम में बहुत पूछे जाते हैं, तो प्लीज आप लोग जो है वर्ड मीनिंग बहुत अच्छे से पढ़िए. प्लीज memorize the word meanings very nicely. Okay, now you see, look at the explanation. Now only the cook and the naval man was left. So only the cook and the naval man was left. We all know this thing now. Only two people remaining alive now. The question that came to their mind was, who was to go into the kettle first? Now what is the meaning of this? In other words, who would die first? कौन पहले मरेगा? This is the question that came to the mind of the cook and the naval man, that who would die first? One has to die. They kept arguing now regarding this. कि सबसे पहले कौन किसको मरना चाहिए? Who should die first? Whether the cook should die first or whether the naval man should die first. They started arguing. Okay. Now look at the argument presented by the naval man and the cook both. For I loved that cook as a brother I did, and the cook he worshipped me. This is a line by the naval man. This stanza 8 is spoken by the naval man. Okay. So, and the cook he worshipped me, but we'd both be blowed if we either be stowed in the other chap's hold. You see. What is the meaning of this line? Of this stanza? In fact, stanza 8. So now the naval man said that he loved the cook very much like his own brother. And the cook also loved the naval man and respected him. So both loved one another, both respected one another. Okay, the cook and the naval man. So the question is, who has to die? Who should die? But you see, ultimately the question is, one should die so that the other might survive. किसी एक को तो मरना होगा. If one has to remain alive, then the other person has to die, because they don't have food with them. They even cannot drink water also, and there is no help. They are stranded in the middle of this ship is stranded. You know, they are all stranded in the middle of the ship, middle of the sea. वो लोग समंदर के बिल्कुल बीचों बीच फंसे हुए हैं. There is no help from anywhere, and we all know that. You see, we all know that their ship crashed against a rock, and many of their crew members died. You know, out of 70-60 people died. 10 remained alive. 10 लोग जिंदा रहे, 10 लोग जिंदा बचे, and out of those 10 they started killing and eating one another. So ultimately only 2 were left in the ship. One is the cook, another is the naval man. So now one has to die, no? So one has to die so that the other may survive. ठीक है? So they both would die. But you see, this naval man is telling that if we did not kill, if we do not sacrifice one of our lives, and we behave like emotional fools, and we sympathize with one another, and we keep all the emotions inside, that the cook is like my brother, or I am a very respectable person to the naval man or the cook. In this way, you see, we both will die. So it is better that one should die so that the other might survive. Okay, so they both would die if they keep both of them alive out of emotion and sympathy. Let me take you to the stanza once again. Look at this. But with both be blowed if we either be stowed in the other chap's hold. You see. So this is the meaning of this line, that we both will die if we keep emotion inside us, if we behave like emotional fools, if we start sympathizing with one another. अगर हम लोग एक दूसरे के साथ ऐसे sympathy दिखाने लगे, तो हम दोनों मर जाएंगे. तो इससे बेहतर है कि let us be little strong, okay, and let us decide that who will die first. Okay. Now you see that. Look at the explanation here. Stanza 9. Says he, dear Jim, he is here the cook. Third person pronoun. So, naval man's dialogue. So, he here means the cook. Okay. So, says the cook, says he, dear James. James is the name of the naval man. Okay. James is the name of the naval man. So says he, dear James, to murder me were a foolish thing to do. This is the argument presented by the cook. argument by the cook. Okay, this is the dialogue, the argument presented by the cook. So he says that, dear James, to murder me were a foolish thing to do. For don't you see that you can't cook me while I can and will cook you. Now look at the cook's argument. Now the cook addressed the naval man as James. So the naval man's name is actually James. Okay, if you're asked in the exam, you can say that who is James? It is the naval man whose name is James. Okay. The cook told the naval man that to murder him, that is the cook, would be a foolish thing. The cook says that, see James, if you murder me, it would be a very foolish thing. अगर तुमने मुझे मारा और मुझे खा गए, तो ये तुम बहुत एक foolish, stupid thing करोगे. Okay? क्यों? Why is it foolish? It is foolish because the cook was an expert. Cook was an expert in cooking, but the naval man was not. So out of the cook and naval man, whom do you think would cook a very delicious food? Obviously, it is the cook who would cook a very delicious food. So the cook says that, see James, it is better that you die because I will be able to cook a very nice meal out of you. मैं एक बहुत अच्छा खाना बना सकता हूँ तुमको मार के. Because I am an expert cook. क्योंकि मैं तो बहुत अच्छा खाना पकाता हूँ, इसलिए तो मैं cook हूँ. That is why I am a cook. Okay, so let me kill you. Okay, and I can cook because I am an expert cook. All right. So he said that, see Mr. James, who is the naval man, he said that, see naval man, see James, you will not be able to cook me, but I will cook you. So the naval man will not be able to cook, he says. So now finally the cook decides to kill the naval man and eat. So the cook actually declares, see here, for don't you see that you can't cook me, but while I can and will cook you. Okay, the cook had already decided. See, there is no need to do any lottery or nothing like that. No need to go for any lottery. It is decided that I will kill you. So the cook decides to kill the naval man and eat him. ठीक है, cook ने ये decide कर लिया था. अब stanza 10. Now cook is ready. Okay, so cook is now ready. He starts boiling the water. So he boils the water and takes the salt and the pepper in portions true, which he never forgot, and some chopped shallot and some sage and parsley too. So true rhyming with TOO2, but salt doesn't rhyme with shallot. So line number 2, line number 4, again rhyming. Okay. Now explanation. The cook started to boil the water. So cook already, he had declared already that, see James, I will kill you. And he starts boiling the water without taking the permission also from the naval man. He starts boiling the water, that it is decided, I am going to kill you. So be ready, Mr. James, be ready, I am going to cook you. So he starts boiling the water. He put some salt, some pepper in equal portions. So he started putting salt and pepper in equal portions and started mixing them. Then he chopped some shallot. Shallot is onions, okay, especially flavored onions. Flavored onions, okay. So he chopped some shallot, which is onions. He also added some sage, which is flavored leaves. Okay, flavored leaves we put, no, like curry pata and all these things in our food, right? So some kind of flavored leaves. He also added parsley. Parsley is kind of coriander. It is not coriander exactly, kind of coriander. Coriander in Hindi we say dhania, dhania patta, right? So he also added some parsley. And if you look at the picture in the Google, अगर आप Google में इसका picture देखेंगे, if you go to the image and type parsley, you see that it almost looks like, it almost resembles the dhania, the coriander actually. So that is why I gave kind of coriander, okay, kind of leaf again, okay, flavored leaf again, okay. So he put all these things in he started putting all these things in the boiling water and started mixing it very nicely. And the cook is like excited that I am going to eat the naval man, okay. And he stirred it round and round and round, and he sniffed at the foaming froth, when I ups with his heels and smothers his squeals in the scum of the boiling broth. So you see, this cook is now, he start stirring it round and round and round and round and round with a big spoon, okay. And then when we cook something, no, we smell, no, we sniff actually, no, whether the smell was coming nice, whether the fragrance of the food, the smell of the food was nice or not. So the cook started, sniffing like that, okay, on the boiling pot. He started sniffing like that, okay, and started stirring it round and round and round, when suddenly what happens, you see. Let's come to the explanation. So he put all the ingredients, the cook put all the ingredients in the boiling pot and started mixing everything. He sniffed the pot to get the fragrance of the food which was being cooked inside. So andar jo pak raha tha, parsley, shallot, pepper, salt, okay, all these things he started mixing very nicely. He sniffed very nicely and got a very nice fragrance, okay, and he was satisfied. But then suddenly what happened? The naval man came from behind. The naval man piche se aaya. The naval man came from behind. He pressed the cook's mouth so that the cook will not be able to shout or make noise or cry for help, shout for help. So look at the naval man. He was very clever, okay. The cook was all ready to cook the naval man, but the naval man was very clever. He came from behind. He held the mouth of the cook like that, okay, so that he won't be able to shout or make noise. So he held the mouth of the cook, okay, like that. And what he did is that suddenly the naval man pushed the cook into the boiling pot from behind. So from behind, the cook pressed the naval man pressed the mouth of the cook like this, okay, and the naval man held the cook's legs and put him into the boiling pot, and the cook instantly died there. Okay, so see, all the ingredients were mixed by the cook. After all the ingredients were mixed by the cook, the naval man, who was very, very clever, he came from behind and pushed the cook into the boiling pot. Okay, and the cook instantly died. Okay, and immediately when the naval man pushed the cook into the boiling pot from behind, there were bubbles on the surface of the water inside the pot. So surface of the water, no, inside the pot. So when the naval man pushed the cook into the boiling pot, all bubbles started coming out, okay, and this man got, this cook himself got cooked. Look at the language, okay, the cook himself, he got cooked, all right, and he died instantly. The cook died instantly, and now the naval man started eating the cook. So stanza 12, and I eat that cook in a week or less, and as I eating the last of his chops, why I almost drops, for a vessel in sight I see. Vessel means vessel actually, and vessel means ship. Okay, ship. All right, so let's look at the explanation. Okay, very interesting poem, you see. It almost took a week for the naval man to eat the cook, because the cook was quite healthy also. So it almost took around 7 days for the naval man to eat the cook completely. But then he could not eat the cook fully. Okay. However, he could not eat the cook fully because he had to leave some body parts of the cook actually, because the naval man suddenly saw a ship in the ocean, in the sea. So naval man ne suddenly ek jahaj dekh liya, he saw a ship in the sea. That is why the naval man, was in a hurry that he will have to wave his hand to the ship, so that the ship can come, approach him and rescue him from that stranded place, okay, where he was, and now he was all alone. Okay, so when he was eating, suddenly he saw a ship traveling from thereby, okay, and this man shouted, okay, and he left the cook. So he could not eat the cook fully, and he had to leave some body parts of the cook because he saw a ship in the ocean, in the sea. Okay, and how many days did it take? It took around 1 week for the naval man to eat the cook, but then he could not eat the cook fully. Now stanza 13. And I never laugh. Laugh means laugh. Old English again, okay, laugh. And I never laugh and never smile, and I never laugh nor play, but I sit and croak, and a single joke I have, which is to say. Up, look at this thing. It's very interesting to note, okay, very, very interesting to note. And I'll tell you why interesting. All right. Now, after the incident, and when the naval man returned back to his place, he did not laugh, smile or play, because you see, he was sad also, that for survival I have killed a person who was like a brother to me. So after that incident, after he ate the cook, and after all the incidents occurred, you see, when the naval man came back to his home, came back to his place, he did not laugh, he did not smile, he did not play also. Inside he was little sad. Why? Because he had eaten the cook who was like his brother. So So he would just sit and talk and had only one joke to tell. So he would sit and talk very casually with somebody, very formally with somebody, but he had one joke to tell somebody. And this joke is very important, and it is where the poem ends with a very humorous note, with a very funny, in a very funny way, the whole poem actually ends. How you see? What is the joke? The joke is, oh, I am a cook, I am a Captain Bold, and the mate of the Nancy Brig, and a bosun tied, and a midshipmate, and the crew of the and the crew of the captain's gig. इसका मतलब क्या? We saw that there were 70 people. Let me take you to the explanation little later. Okay, there were 70 people who were traveling in the ship. Out of those 70 people, how many died? 60 died. Alright, how many left? 10 remained alive. Out of those 10 men, how many finally remained alive? 2 remained alive finally, the cook and the naval man. Okay, and out of the 2, how many finally remained alive? 1, who is the naval man. Right or wrong? Who is the naval man? Now, in the first stanza itself, this naval man says that he is the cook, I am the cook, I am the captain, I am the mate of the Nancy Brig, I am the bosun tied, I am the midshipmate, I am myself the crew of the Nancy's gig. So how many died? Nobody died then. If he is the captain, he is the crew also, he is the deck officer also, he is the petty small officer also, he is the midshipmate also, he is the captain, he is the cook himself. So who died? Nobody died. Obviously, right or wrong? So he tells the following joke that I am the cook, I am the captain, I am the deck officer, I am the petty small officer also, I am also the midshipmate, and I am also the crew in the ship Nancy. Alright, here the explanation is not given, you have to understand from here. So that is why this is the explanation of stanza 14. This is the explanation of stanza 14. Let us come to the analysis part now. See, the naval man makes it clear in the first stanza itself that he holds a number of positions in the ship called Nancy. That means there is only one character in the whole poem. Obviously, he is telling the story. That means this naval officer is the only character in the story. This naval man is the only character in the story. Who died? This means that no one is killed in the poem. You see after the first stanza and the last stanza, if you look at the book, the first stanza and the last stanza are same. You match stanza number 1, stanza number 14. Same. Isn't it? Same. So, from stanza number 2 to stanza number 13, what do you feel? You get a picture inside your mind that, oh, there are 10 people in the ship remaining, and one by one they start killing one another and eating one another. So they are like cannibals. Cannibals mean those who eat human flesh. Those who eat human flesh are called cannibals, right? So they are like cannibals. But ultimately, you see, the readers forget this thing. From stanza 2 to stanza 13, the readers actually forget that in the first stanza itself, this naval man makes it clear that I am holding so many positions in the ship. There is no one in the ship except for me. So the reader remains so occupied with the story of the naval man, and this is a fantastic storytelling by the naval man. Naval man means here the poet is actually telling the story to us. But let us say through the naval man, our poet is telling the story. So the reader remains so occupied with the story of the naval man from stanza 2 to stanza 13 that he or she forgets the first stanza and keeps imagining how all the 10 men are eaten one by one, by themselves. But it is not like that. Only one character is there. So the last stanza is actually a reminder by the naval man that he is the only one character in the whole poem. कि लास्ट स्टैंजा में एक्चुअली वो रिमाइंड कर रहा है कि मैं एक लौता कैरेक्टर हूँ कहानी में भाई, कोई नहीं मरा, किसी ने किसी को नहीं खाया, क्योंकि मैं अकेला हूँ. कोई 10 आदमी 70 people 60 people are not there, it's only I. So William S. Gilbert, who is the poet of the Nancy Bell, the yarn of the Nancy Bell, very humorously, very, I wouldn't say funnily, it is humor, okay, when you know, after a gruesome comedy, after a gruesome explanation, when suddenly you have a smile on your face, all right, that is called a humor. Okay, you become very serious. See, oh, from stanza 2 to stanza 13 you become very serious, but suddenly in the last stanza when you understand, oh, there's only one character, so no one died. Okay, and then he suddenly starts smiling, right? So that is humor. So very humorously depicts the picture that compels the reader to believe that 9 people have been killed one by one, killed by one another for survival. कि ये कहानी, this is the storytelling technique by the poet William S. Gilbert that actually compels us, the readers, to believe that yes, 9 people had died, 9 people were killed one by one. Okay, they were killed by one another, and this happens from stanza 2 to stanza 13, because stanza 1 and stanza 14, stanza 1 to he already declares that I am holding all the positions, and stanza 14 is reminder, अरे भाई, nobody died because I am the only character in the story. And how did you, so in one way you say हम लोगों को उल्लू बनाया एक्चुअली, ये जो नेवल मैन है इसने हम लोगों को उल्लू बनाया कि मैं ऐसा कहानी सुनाऊंगा तुम लोगों को, I'll tell such a story to you. He actually made a fool of us, the naval officer, the naval man, right? Because we started believing actually that so many people got killed, but no one got killed. So the poem is not at all violent. So if somebody says that this poem is so violent, it has been included in a class 9 book, okay, and class 9 students are hardly 13-14 years, boys and girls, so violent they start eating one another, but it is not violent at all. There has been criticism that this poem is quite violent, there is element of cannibalism inside, but there's nothing like that. Okay, the poem is not at all violent, though it might seem to be, because the characters kill one another and eat them. See, it might seem to be because they start killing one another and start eating them, but there is though an element of cannibalism, because one who eats human beings are cannibals. But let me tell you one thing, it is nothing like that. Otherwise the syllabus framers would have never included this poem in your book. Oh, इस in your syllabus, हमारे जो syllabus frame करते, जो लोग syllabus set करते हैं, वो कभी ये poem include नहीं करते. अगर ये poem violent होता तो there's no element of violence here. So rather the poem is highly funny, all right, and humorous, and ends with the naval officer's reminder. So naval officer in stanza 14, he reminds us that, see, I had already told you in the first stanza only that I am everything in the ship. So there is no point, there is no mention, though I have mentioned about killings and all, but no one got killed. It is the reader who becomes a fool. Readers लोग उल्लू बन गया. कहाँ से कहाँ तक उल्लू बना? स्टैंजा 2 से स्टैंजा 13 तक उल्लू बना, क्योंकि स्टैंजा 1 और 14 में तो ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेनेशन हो चुका था. So it is the storytelling technique of the naval man. Naval man मतलब the poet only, okay, that grips the attention of the reader. तो यही तो है कहानी बोलने का तरीका कि रीडर अपना attention full देता है. I think in your additional English you have one story called The Liar, right? The Liar by लभू. I'm sorry, the character is लभू, है ना? इस कहानी में in this story लभू tells all incredible stories which cannot be believed, all right, but still people would come to listen to his stories. They know that Labhu is telling all the lies, but still people would come to listen to his stories. Why? Because his storytelling technique is so interesting that grips the attention of the readers. जो readers को पूरा attention में रखता है, यही वो storytelling technique है which is used by the poet here in the poem. All right, so this is the poem, this is the explanation of the poem, The Yarn of the Nancy Bell. I hope all of you have understood the poem very nicely. Yesterday I uploaded the video, but then there was a mistake in typing, so I immediately stopped the live streaming and deleted the video. I don't want to provide you any wrong information, any incorrect information. That is why I brought the video once again. Okay, so if you like the explanation, अगर आपको explanation अच्छा लगे, if you like the explanation, please hit on the like button, okay, and subscribe to my channel. Those of you who have not subscribed, invite your friends to subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to complete class 9 syllabus, additional English and English very fast. Okay, so share my videos with your friends, okay, with your friends, so that they can also subscribe to the channel and take full advantage of the explanations. I'm there on Instagram also, okay, I'll provide the link. I always provide the link in the description box. I'm there on Instagram. I'm there on Facebook also. You can follow me there also for more updates. Okay, so that's all from me. With love from your own